So when I filmed my first wedding, I was pretty nervous. You don't want to mess up the big moments. You want to be in the right place at the right time. You're wondering if you've bought enough equipment. You're wondering if your camera settings are right. These are all the things that I was worried about going into filming my first wedding. I already knew that I wanted to be a videographer, and so this was my first opportunity to get something meaningful in my portfolio. And this wedding was really important to me because obviously from the footage that I was going to get from this wedding, that I was hopefully then going to sell on to other clients and get other clients to book me based on the footage and the film I created from this wedding. So I felt a lot of pressure to do a good job and really make it count. And so years later, now that I've filmed countless weddings, what advice would I give to someone just starting out? What advice would I give to someone who's just about to film their first wedding, or has maybe only filmed a couple of weddings and is still looking for a few tips and tricks? And that's what I want to take you through today. So I'm going to go through my 5 top tips for filming your first wedding. And so we'll go straight into it then, and my first tip for you is definitely preparation. And preparation includes everything from managing the expectations of the couple you're working for. Whether you're charging them or whether you're doing it for free, you still need to manage the expectations of what they're going to be receiving, all the way up to charging your batteries. And everything in between those 2 points is preparation and what you do to get yourself ready for that wedding day. And the more prepared you are, the more relaxed you're going to be on the day, and the easier you're going to find it, and the more you're going to enjoy it. And ultimately, that means you're going to be more comfortable behind the camera, which should lead to you getting some better footage, and therefore a better film. So let me run you through some examples of things you can prepare before you get to the wedding day. So like I've already said, you need to manage the expectations of the couple. Be honest with them. It's your first time. Don't hide that fact. Don't try and pull the wool over their eyes. You may be charging them a nominal fee. You may be doing it for free as it's your first wedding, but let them know how you plan to approach the day, what they are going to get at the end of it, so there's no shocks, there's no surprises. If you're not that confident, say to them, look, this is my first time, I think I can give you a 5-minute highlights film and your ceremony and your speeches. Just lay out those expectations early and it should avoid any problems further down the line. Talk to your couple, find out a bit about them, and also while you're discussing different options with them, find out what other suppliers they've booked for their wedding day. You can then get in touch with these suppliers and start building a rapport. If this is something you're looking at getting into full time or you want to do more of, you're going to need to build relationships with these other suppliers. Not only are they great and very talented people to work with, but they can also recommend you to their brides and grooms and get you in front of people that you may not have had the opportunity to be in front of. Within this as well, I would suggest that you get in touch with the couple's photographer, because hopefully it's not their first wedding, they're an experienced wedding photographer, and you can get in touch with them and say, hey, I'm going to be there on the wedding day, the couple have asked me to film the day, it's my first wedding, I don't want to get in your way, I'm looking to learn, I'd like to sort of bounce off your style, I'd like to watch how you approach the day. Build that rapport, and it then calms the wedding day down a little bit, because the photographer won't be surprised that there's a videographer that's just turned up. They won't get annoyed if you end up in the wrong place at the wrong time or you walk into their shot. You can bounce off their style, you can bounce off how they approach that day, and it will help you get better footage by working alongside them than trying to work against them or not really knowing how to work with someone else doing a very similar job to you. And while we're on the subject, make sure you stick around to the end of the video, because I've got a bonus tip that's based around wedding suppliers and how you can help them and they can help you. So make sure you stick around to the end of the video for that. Obviously you want to do as much camera and equipment prep as you can before you get to the wedding day. All cameras are different, but if your camera has the option to allow you to save presets, so you can have different methods of filming pre-saved in there. Like I shoot on Sony's and they have a memory 1 and a memory 2 option on the dial at the top. So if I'm filming a certain angle and I'm like, right, I'm filming in 4K at 24 frames a second, I want to jump to 60 frames a second slow-mo HD, I can just flick the dial and bang, I'm straight into that filming mode. I've got it all set up with my picture profiles and it's a lot quicker and smoother on the day. Now obviously not all cameras have this feature and I don't know what you're going to be filming on, but things like that, if you can set up shortcuts, set up custom buttons, practice with the camera so you know where those buttons are, it's going to make you so much more efficient and fluid on the day, which then allows you to capture better shots and be in the moment a bit more rather than being stuck behind your camera. Decide things like what colour profile you're going to be filming in. Are you just going to film in a normal profile? Are you going to film in a log profile? How do you need to expose that log profile indoors or outdoors? Does it change? Read up on these things, get to know it. Don't go in blind, because you'll regret that decision, because you then won't get the best footage from that moment that you could have done. Do you have enough memory cards to last the day? You've never filmed a wedding before. You get a lot of footage from a wedding. Sometimes I can come away from a wedding with 200 or 300 gigabytes worth of data over several cards, depending on what that wedding has been and how long I've been there. So make sure you've got enough memory cards to last that day comfortably. I would suggest as well having multiple cards. Don't go in with just one 256 gigabyte card and try and do the whole day on that, because then if that card fails, you've lost everything. So when I first started out, my camera only had one card slot, and I broke it into bride prep, then I'd change the card, I'd then do the ceremony, I'd change the card. I did that, and especially the evening, I had a real cut off at the evening and was like, right now I'm on a separate set of cards. Just so that if any one of those cards did fail, I had other aspects of the wedding backed up on the day. And whilst you may not have all the equipment that you'd ideally want at the moment, make sure the equipment you do have is working well and is fit for purpose. Things like cleaning your camera before you go to a wedding so you don't get lens spots. You will kick yourself if you get back from filming your first wedding and there's a lens spot from the first moment you turn the camera on to the last shot you took of the day, and all your footage has then got a spot on it, because it will stand out. So make sure all your kit and equipment is fit for purpose and clean before you turn up on the wedding day. And make sure you formulate a good solid plan for the day. Where have you got to be at what time? Where's the bride going to be? Where's the groom going to be? Where's the reception? Where's the ceremony? All these different things. All these things will help you understand the day, and it'll be a lot more fluid because you'll know what's coming up next. You know what's meant to be next. And then when things do change, and they always do change on a wedding day, no wedding day ever sticks to the original plan, you can cope with that a lot better, because you're like, right, we're swapping this out for this. First dance is a little bit earlier, first dance has been pushed back by half an hour because of this. We're actually going to switch these two bits around. Those things always happen. But if you know all the events that are happening that day, nothing's going to catch you out, and you're going to be in the right place at the right time to capture everything you need. Other things you could do if you've got the time is research the venue. If you've not been there before, go on Google, go on their website, look at their galleries. All these venues have video walkarounds, they'll have photographers' photos, and just look at the ceremony room. How's it set up? Where's the photo been taken from? Where did the best angles look like they're coming from? Think about things like if the venue's got grounds, where in those grounds does it look like they've had that photo done? Is there a statue? Is there a building? Is there a certain place that you like a shot you've seen? And then you can start piecing together, before you've even turned up at the venue, an idea in your mind of how you want to approach that. So if you've got a bit of footage from a previous wedding there that's been filmed, and you go, right, this guy set a tripod in this corner, and then he's obviously filmed it from an opposite angle. That looked like a good angle and it looked like it worked. Go with that, and then you can walk into that room and already know in your mind, go, right, my tripod needs to go over there, my camera and me need to be over here to get the best shots. You've already done that prep, rather than walking into a room with only 10 minutes to set up before the bride turns up and just winging in cameras as and when, end up in bad positions, on bad angles, and you'll get bad footage. And then you've got to try and push that bad footage onto your next clients who potentially are going to be paying you for your wedding videography services. So it's worth taking the time out on your first couple, at least, especially at venues you've not been to make sure you've got that plan as solid as you can make it. And obviously the list could go on, but my point is, the more prepared you can be, the more adaptable you can be on the day, the more you can roll with the punches, you can roll with the mistakes, and you can just get on with the business of actually filming the wedding, rather than worrying about where have I got to be now. Am I going to run out of space on my memory card halfway through this ceremony? Am I going to run out of battery halfway through this ceremony? Have I got the right angle for the first dance? You've already done as much prep for that as you can. And obviously that list is as long or as short as you want to make it. But the more prepared you can be, the better it's going to be for you and the more you're going to enjoy it. Okay guys, and before we move on to tip number 2, I'd just like to say, if you could give this video a like and a subscribe, that'd be absolutely fantastic. It'd be wonderful to have you as part of my community. If you're just starting out as a wedding videographer, I'd love to be on that journey with you. Follow me on Instagram, maybe you pick up some more tips. It'd be great to see how your work comes along, and if these videos are helpful to you and you'd like to see more content like this, then definitely hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you're notified when a new video gets released from me, and yeah, it'd be great to have you along. Okay, so tip number 2 then is keep it simple, and I know I can already hear the screams from you at home, shouting at your screens going, what a ridiculous piece of advice, just keep it simple. But hear me out, you'll understand. So at this point, before you filmed your first wedding, no doubt you've watched hundreds of YouTube videos. You've probably practiced shots with your friends and on your own. And you've probably put together a few short films. You put some great whip, pan and zoom transitions in there. You've played around with some slow motion. You've put some speed ramps in and got a handle on how they work. Maybe you've even done a little bit of color grading. And now you're ready for your first big project. You're ready for your first wedding. But whilst all of that is great, and those skills are great to have, and they're skills you definitely will need at some point, filming your first few weddings is about creating a solid film. Remember, the first few weddings you shoot are going to be your show reel. They're going to be the only footage you have to convince potential clients to book you for their wedding. It's the evidence these couples are going to use to decide whether they part with their hard-earned money to have you there at their wedding day, capturing their big moment. Now, I'm not for one moment saying you can't have a style to your film, you can't have a styled look. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is stay away from crazy camera movements, stay away from crazy transitions, keep that film and your first few wedding films as timeless as possible, because keeping it as timeless as possible will reach the widest audience. The most amount of people want that look to their wedding film. And you have to remember as well, this wedding film is not to get you 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. This is your couple's wedding film. A film they're going to look at and cherish, hopefully, for a lifetime. And crazy camera movements and crazy transitions date a wedding film very, very quickly. They can also make it look very cheap and poorly put together. And I know there'll be a few couples out there that like that look and like that style. And I fully appreciate that, but you're narrowing your audience, you're narrowing your client base by making films that are like that, especially in the beginning. When you get further down the line and you've got 20, 30 weddings under your belt, then yeah, experiment with some styles, do a different film for a couple. But what I'm saying is these first few films need to be as solid as you can make them to give you the best chance of getting more weddings booked in. And I've heard the comment before of people saying, well, I watch this really successful YouTuber and he does hundreds of weddings a year and he's got this really stylized look and he does things a certain way and no one else is doing it. So if I copy him and he's successful, I'm gonna get that successful. What you don't realize is that isn't the first wedding that successful videographer is filming. He's built that style over years and years and years of filming these weddings and has then transformed his style into that. He's grown into that style. And so you can't jump in at that end point. And I can almost guarantee that if you go back and look at these very famous and very successful wedding videographers, you looked at their first films, they wouldn't look anything like the films they output now. They wouldn't look anything like the styled, clean-cut looks that they've got now. And so it's good to learn from them, it's good to watch and see what they're doing, different techniques, different camera angles, different transitions and all that sort of good stuff. It's really good to look and aspire to that. What I'm saying is you need clients to be booking you for you to get the weddings to put that style into. So make sure your first 4 or 5 weddings at least are just a solid wedding film with the best footage you can get so you can book more weddings subsequently and start your wedding videographer career. Okay, moving on to the third tip then, which is take the right equipment. And that sounds pretty obvious, doesn't it? And it is. But let's dig a little deeper into this subject. So weddings are long down your feet. They're a long day to work. They're great fun, but it is definitely a long, hard day's work when you filmed a wedding. And throughout that wedding day, you're carrying your equipment and your bag and everything you've taken for 90% of that day. So the last thing you want is to be carrying all of the equipment you own all day long and it breaking your back when in fact you might not need 60-70% of what you've taken with you. And so my point is, take the right stuff and don't take any more than what you absolutely need. And so something I did before my first wedding, and I still do it now, I do it periodically throughout the year to make sure I'm not carrying too much, is a little system I use to make sure that everything I'm carrying on the day I'm actually going to be using, rather than carrying loads of stuff that I don't need and I'm not actually going to use for that wedding. So what you need to do is get all your equipment out, all your videography equipment, everything you think you need to take on the day, take it all out your bag, lay it all down on the bed, on the floor, just lay it out and lay it out into sections, clear sections. So for instance, I've got a Sony a6300. So with that, I lay that camera down. I've then got a battery grip that goes with that, so that goes down. I've got 6 or 7 batteries that go with that camera. They get laid out with that. I've got memory cards that go with that camera, so the memory cards get laid out. I've got a microphone that gets put on that camera, so that goes to that camera. And I've got a section then of, well, this is everything I need to make this A6300 work. This is what makes it film. That's in one section. I've then got another camera, I've got an A7 III, so I do the same with that. You do that for all your cameras, all your audio gear, so be like, right, this is what I use to record the ceremony, this is what I use to record the speeches, all your audio gear is laid out, any lenses, filters, and then what you need to do is clear another bit of space and be like, right, I'm gonna break the wedding down into sections, and I'm gonna put into that space what I think I need to film that portion of the day. So, for instance, bride prep. You're gonna put everything now in that space that you think you need to film bride prep. So you turned up in the morning to get the girls getting ready. What do you need for that? Well, you need a camera. So then, for instance, let's say the A6300, all that equipment goes into that part of, right, I need that camera, and everything to make that camera work goes over there. So then what else do you need? Well, are you gonna be recording anyone speaking? Well, I am obviously a UK wedding filmmaker. I know American weddings work a little bit differently because they may do letter readings or first looks first thing in the morning, but that doesn't tend to happen a lot in the UK. It's not really caught on yet. So realistically, are you going to be recording anyone speaking in the morning? Probably not. The on-camera microphone that you're going to be taking with you is good enough to capture the ambient sound, to capture the ambient audio of that room. So you don't need to take any extra recorders. So all your audio equipment, that can stay to one side. Are you going to need a tripod? Well, probably not, because when are you going to be using a static tripod angle during bride prep? You're not. You're going to be going handheld or at most gimbal shots or stabilised shots. So do you need to take a tripod? No, leave it off. And then once you've moved everything over that you think you need, write a little card that says bride prep, take a picture of it all, and then put it back. And you're going to do this process for every single section for the wedding. So let's go through ceremony. So what do you need to film the ceremony? Now, I know this is your first wedding potentially, or your first couple of weddings, but I really would hope that you're taking more than one camera. If you're not, I would definitely ask a friend if you can borrow a camera, or look at renting a camera. And just for a very simple reason, in that having two angles at a wedding ceremony really can save your skin a little bit when it comes to making the film, because it gives you a nice wide angle at the back or at the side of a room that you can cut to when you're moving or changing your composition on your camera wherever you end up in the room. Because the last thing you want in a wedding ceremony, and the footage you get from that in the film, is you changing focal length halfway through, or you changing exposure, or you changing angles, because that's everything you've then captured is in that film. Whereas if you can cut to a static angle at the back that's just recording, you can then move quite happily, get your composition right, go back into filming, and then in the film you can cut between the two seamlessly, and your couple will never even know it happened. So really do look into having two camera angles as a minimum. But of course, if you're taking two cameras, you're going to need a tripod. So tripod goes in next to your two cameras. Are you going to need your audio gear? Well, hopefully you've got some form of voice recorder, and you're going to be doing audio for the wedding. So then any audio gear you've got, so you go, right, I've got a Sony TX650 and I've got a Tascam DR10L, bang, over they go, because you're going to need that to mic up the groom or the registrar or anyone doing the reading. And then once you've got all that lined up, write again on the little card that says ceremony, take a picture. And then at the end of the day, when you've done this all, you should have 5 or 6 photos that you can look at, and everything in those photos is what you need to be taking with you on the wedding day. Anything that's not in those photos, you don't need to take. It's because at no point when you've broken that wedding down have you gone, oh, I needed that lens, or I needed that bit of equipment. You can just leave it where it is. You don't need to take it. Then pack this in your camera bag, make sure your bag's comfortable. Make sure you can go all day or most of the day with the bag on your back. And then if you do have space in your bag and you think, oh, Joe, I just feel much happier if I took this for this reason. In case this happens, I'd like to take this. Then of course take it. Just remember, we've all been there. Every wedding filmmaker, every wedding videographer has been where you are. We've all taken too much equipment to weddings. Some of us still do on occasion. This process is a really good way of narrowing that kit down to just bare minimum of what you need to capture that wedding well, and you can prep that way before. So this goes back to prep as well. And like I said, this is a process that I still use even to this day. I'll do this probably twice a year and be like, right, have I used this bit of equipment in the last 3 months worth of weddings? Well, if I haven't, then out it comes. And it's a good way of then keeping my bag organised. It keeps me quicker on the day because that bag's organised, I know where everything is. And it's also nice knowing that I am carrying the minimal amount of equipment without breaking my back all the time. Do you know what I mean? That's quite important to me, is to be fairly light and fast and I don't want a heavy bag that weighs me down all day, and I'm more concentrating on how my back feels and how heavy the bag is rather than capturing the wedding. And this is a good process to keep that weight down. Okay, so we'll move on to my fourth tip for filming your first wedding, and that is to not get sucked into the back of the camera. So the day arrives, you turn up, you start filming, and you start trying to get into the rhythm of the day. And no matter what happens, no matter what mistakes happen, whatever gets thrown your way, make sure you don't get sucked into the back of the camera and ignore the rest of the outside world and what is happening around you. You've got to be engaging, you've got to engage with your couple, you've got to talk to them, you've got to make them laugh, you've got to make them relaxed, and the more you can do that, the better footage you're going to get. And you need to put them at ease, and nothing will make a couple feel more uneasy than someone fumbling around with a camera or settings, cursing under their breath, and not looking like they know what they're doing. It makes people feel very uneasy because they're then waiting on you to sort it out. And photographers are very good at this. They're very good at engaging with people, they're very good at organising people, they're very good at putting people at ease whilst they go about their work. And so going back to my second bit of advice for you, then make sure that you get along with the photographer and learn from them. Learn how they do their business, learn how they approach that part of the day and how they speak to people. And I appreciate that when you look at photographers, sometimes they do have more time than you do to sort of do their settings on the fly while still being able to talk to someone, because they might not have as much to set up as you do for film. But that's no excuse, and it's something you do have to learn. It might take you a few weddings to get into, but as long as you've got it in the back of your mind and you're thinking about it, and be like, don't get sucked into the camera. No matter what goes wrong, no matter what goes right, there's an event happening outside of my little bubble. There's an event happening outside of my camera that I need to be aware of. And remember, if things do start going wrong, if your equipment starts failing, if something overheats, you're only human and mistakes happen, and that's absolutely fine. It's how you cope with those mistakes, and it's how you rectify those mistakes that matter. Remember to stop, take a breath. Whatever the problem is, you can fix it as quickly as you can and get back into the business of filming. And do your utmost during that time to not let your couple know that you're having issues. So if that means you just need to take yourself off to a side for a moment, sort out your settings, change your battery, change your cards, and then come back, that's far quicker and easier than you explaining to the couple this, that, and the other. And just remember, mistakes are always going to happen. No matter how many weddings you film, how experienced you become, you work in a technical environment, cameras will always go wrong. Memory cards will always fail. There'll always be something that goes wrong, and if it's not with your equipment, it'll be something on the day. Something could get pushed back, location will change, someone will have a hissy fit. All these different variables will happen, and it's how you cope with those mistakes and with those variables that makes you a professional. That's what people are going to be paying you for, and that's part of what you could sell yourself as, is very chilled, very relaxed. And part of that comes from just rolling with these mistakes as and when they happen, solving them quickly and getting on with filming, and not letting it distract you and not letting it get on top of you, meaning that it then detracts from your footage and it detracts from your wedding film. And it's something that took me a few weddings to grasp, that I needed to be more engaging with the people I was filming rather than the filming I was doing. And so don't get sucked into the camera, don't spend ages doing your settings, and remember, don't get overwhelmed with it. It's your first time filming a wedding, it's a big moment, it's a big day for you. Give yourself a break. You've got to enjoy what you're doing. Don't mount all this pressure on yourself to be absolutely perfect, because no wedding I've ever filmed is perfect. Even now, no wedding I've ever filmed has gone exactly the way I wanted it to go. No wedding I've walked away from, I've got absolutely every single shot I wanted, because there's always something more you want. There's always something extra you could have got. And that took me a long time to realise. So just get everything you can, extract the most from the day, and don't panic when things go wrong. And don't get sucked into the back of the camera. Okay, and tip number 5 then is be happy and have fun. Okay, it's a happy occasion and it's an honour to be there and film for these couples. Every wedding I film and every wedding I get invited to is an absolute honour to be a part of. It's a privilege. These are the biggest days of your couple's lives and they want you there to capture it. And so be happy about that. Not everyone gets the opportunity to go and film someone's wedding. It's a very unique thing to be asked to do and to be able to do well. And you've got your first client. You're on the road to being a wedding videographer and a wedding filmmaker, the job you want to do, and be happy about that. You've practiced your filmmaking ability, you've prepped all your equipment, you're in the right place at the right time, and now it's time to just enjoy yourself and capture that day as it unfolds. And remember, you're not just there to film that couple's day, you're there to make that couple happy on that day. And what that means is that the service you give them could lead to a good review, and you don't know who else is at that wedding. If there's another couple there that are due to be married who haven't thought about having a videographer, they could be looking at you going, well, we'll see how this guy's film turns out, and then maybe we'll book him as well. And if they see you laughing and joking and having fun with the couple, and then you produce a great film, well then why wouldn't they book you? And so it's really important that your attitude on the day and your demeanor on the day is happy, you're engaging, you're part of that day, you're happy to be there, you love what you do, and you've done all the hard work, you've done all the preparations, you've done all the practicing, and now it's time for you to capture your first wedding. So just go and have fun with it, go and enjoy yourself and have a fantastic time. Okay, so that was my top 5 tips for filming your first wedding. But I'd also like to share with you a bonus tip that could really help you expand your client base and maximize this opportunity to get yourself some more clients. But before I give you the bonus tip, how about hitting that like button, tapping the subscribe button and hitting the bell notification so you know when I've released a new video, especially if you want to learn more about wedding filmmaking and being a part of the wedding industry. Okay then, so the bonus tip. You remember way back at the start of the video I was talking about wedding suppliers and finding out who your suppliers were through your couple and building a rapport with them and getting to know them and starting to build a relationship, and that was for a very good reason. And that reason is you can use these suppliers to push your wedding film even further. So the chances are that these wedding suppliers are going to have quite a large social media following between them. They're probably established companies that have been doing weddings for years, and so they've got potential brides and grooms following them, they've got old brides and grooms following them, and obviously people that just follow them out of interest. And so you can piggyback off of these larger, more established companies to push your film out and get it in front of more people that are likely to book you than you may necessarily get if you just push the video out yourself. And how are you going to do this? With the power of social media. So you've spoken to your couple, you've got a list of all the suppliers that are going to be turning up on the day, or all the suppliers that have supplied something to that wedding. What you're then going to do is make sure that you get a few shots of something that each supplier has done. Work that into your wedding film. Obviously if it doesn't go with the wedding film, don't put it in, don't try and force it in. But most of the time you can make it quite natural and get these sort of, you can get the flowers in there, you can get the tables in there and the decorations, and those sort of things just sort of flow in the film. What you're then going to do is when you release the film onto Facebook or Instagram, you're then going to tag all the suppliers. And the chances are that those suppliers are then going to push that content. They're either going to reshare it or they're going to comment on it, and it's going to push that out to their couples. And even if they don't, it's going to flag up on their home pages, it's going to flag up with their name on it, and you can then get in front of brides and grooms that way. If you're putting your films on YouTube, then make sure you put their websites on there, and you can also put their Facebook and their Instagram handles on there, and then this again allows people that see your film to find those suppliers, and it allows people that have those suppliers already booked to see your film. And so you can then get in front of a few hundred more people that are potentially looking at having a videographer and go, hey, my florist did a wedding that this guy's just filmed and I really like the film. There you go, they're inquiring with you and you've got yourself another client. All through the power of social media and all through creating relationships with these suppliers. And so it's well worth investing the time, especially if you're looking at doing this long term, investing the time into really making yourself known in the industry and letting people know that you're good at what you do, you're more than happy to credit people, and you'd like people to help you out with sharing your film. So that's my bonus tip for you. Tag away on the suppliers, get as much reach on those first few films as you can, and you'll get a lot more interest from a lot more clients. I can almost guarantee it. I really hope you've enjoyed this video and the tips that I've given you have helped you as you start your journey as a wedding videographer or a wedding filmmaker. How are you feeling about filming your first wedding? Or maybe you filmed a few already. How did they go? I'd really like to hear from you and hear about your experiences and how shooting your first wedding went. Or maybe you're a seasoned wedding videographer. How did your first wedding go? Are there any tips you'd give someone who's just starting out on their wedding videographer career? Please let me know in the comment section. I'd really like to hear from all of you. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next film.